you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I am Brandy Castle. I'm a registered nurse, welcoming you to United to Heal virtual vigil on behalf of 32,000 members of our union, UNAC UHCP. We are here now to give space to our shared suffering, grief, and loss over the past 14 months. We are here to remember friends, family, caregivers, and members of our community we've lost. We want to draw strength and hope from one another. None of us can do this alone. Let's hold a moment of silence.
Hi, this is the Reverend Tania Marquez from the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Diego. Dear nurses, I want to express my infinite gratitude for all of your work. You responded to a call to care for people in their most vulnerable moments. This time of pandemic made this work even harder. You did not imagine the amount of suffering you would witness. You did not imagine the anxiety and tension of wanting to keep your loved ones safe and caring for those infected with COVID. And you didn't imagine either that you would lose colleagues in the process. Yet, you showed up to work. And when others couldn't be there, you offered patients comfort and care, like you always do. You accompanied them in their illness and death, even when your heart broke over and over again. Now that so many are getting vaccinated and the pandemic begins to subside, it is possible that the feelings, the grief, the sorrow that you felt and couldn't address are surfacing now. As you explore the ways to respond to the grief and the loss, my hope is that you will remember that you are loved beyond measure, and that even in your most difficult moments, you are held by that source of love. During this pandemic, you showed us what embodied love in action looks like, especially in the midst of suffering and exhaustion. So I offer this prayer. God of many names and of no names, continue to bless the hands of all nurses and the care and comfort they bring to those who are ill. Bless their strength and dedication, their mind and the sacredness of their vocation. Make them know with all certainty in their hearts that they are not alone. Bring them the healing they need for all the grief of the losses experienced this past year. Bless every part of their lives and all the people they love. Amen. Thank you for giving so much of yourselves, for caring for our community.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Duncan. I'm the president of United Nurses Associations of California, Union of Healthcare Professionals. Thank you for joining us today as we come together to honor patients, family members, and friends lost to COVID-19. We hold all of those grieving in our hearts and send healing prayers to all of those continuing to face the long-lasting effects that COVID-19 took on the human body. We are also here to acknowledge the toll this virus took on our mental health, something we talk very little about. But in order to address a problem, we must first acknowledge it. After the resilience that registered nurses showed throughout 2020, the original Year of the Nurse, the World Healthcare Organization, extended the Year of the Nurse through the end of 2021. And last week, we celebrated nurses all over the world. These celebrations look very different than they do normally, but these are not normal times. The ways in which registered nurses and healthcare professionals rose to meet the challenges of this year only deepened our commitment to our patients. We illustrated on no uncertain terms that we will do whatever it takes in order to care for patients. For our communities, we will do what is needed, even when it is hard, when we are scared to our core, even when we are tired in ways that sleep doesn't seem to help. We deliver patient care. That is what we are called upon to do as individuals, and that is what we are collectively doing as a union. We watched what was happening in New York. We hoped it would not happen here in California and elsewhere in the nation. But soon, our own communities and our own neighborhoods became hot zones. The PPE available was not adequate, and there were times when we felt neither physically or emotionally safe at work. The pandemic heightened our country's long time shortage of nurses and healthcare staff. And in doing so, shined a bright light on the cracks within our country's healthcare system. We on the front lines must be involved in designing public and community healthcare for the future. All the while, we kept working. We stayed at the bedside. We floated and redeployed to areas outside our comfort zones. We slept apart from our families. We volunteered our helping hands to assist units in need. We met our fears, dug deep, and found the resilience necessary to keep going. The value of our life-saving nurses, professionals, and essential workers has never been felt so deeply by so many. Our communities recognize and respect our commitment, and they too continue to show their commitment to us. Neighbors, friends, the community, and local businesses came together across our union and supported us with donated PPE, food deliveries, and public testimonies about how our care made a difference for them in some of the hardest days of their lives. Now we must do what is needed in order to care for each other so that we may continue to care for our communities. First, we must do exactly what we are called here today: stand together, caregiver to caregiver, united to heal. For 14 months, we have found the resilience to keep going. Today, through this collective healing, we find the hope we need to envision the future of healthcare that all caregivers and patients deserve. And in the days ahead, we must use the strength of our collective voice to improve the healthcare of our communities. Our professions and our patients are counting on us. And I, for one, know we can do it because we've shown that together we can do anything. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Charmaine Morales. I am a registered nurse and the Executive Vice President of UNAC UHCP, United Nurses Associations of California, Union of Healthcare Professionals.
And my name is Mandy Hartz. I am the Director of Membership Engagement at UNAC UHCP. Thank you all for joining us today. It is in communion with each other that we find power in our experiences. We are grateful for all of the caregivers and community members joining us at our in-person vigils, and to all of you here with us today. Throughout our events, we have shared the names of family members, co-workers, friends, patients, and neighbors lost to COVID-19 or who greatly suffered because of the virus. We invite you to do the same here in the comment section.
I don't have to remind you all that the last 14 months have been difficult for most of us. As we heal from the physical ravages of COVID-19, we cannot forget the toll on our members' mental health, as Denise said. We know from our own members that most feel they need help, but far fewer have received it. Burnout and anxiety affect 7 in 10 of us, and the main sources of strain include understaffing and worries over catching and spreading COVID. We've invited Steve Padilla, a city council member in Chula Vista, just outside San Diego, to share the effects on the pandemic of one of our hardest hit communities.
Good afternoon, and I wanted to take a minute to just express to you my personal and professional appreciation for all the incredible, critical work that you do. You all put yourselves at great personal risk to keep us healthy and cared for in some of the worst times in recent history. I know firsthand, a little more than a year ago, I was in need of the skills and expertise and the heart and the soul and the efforts that so many of you make every day. And I benefited from those efforts and from that work in my own story of being critically ill with COVID and nearly not surviving. I think about that every day. I think about the frontline health workers who saved so many lives, who comforted so many in their most difficult illness and times, and even as they left this world, so many, far too many, were lost. But I think about you now and always. I'll always have a special place in my heart for the special work that you do. And today I join you in spirit, if not in person, for this vigil to think about each and every one of you and each and every one of your brothers and sisters and others in the profession that we've lost. And you have my total support around efforts to look after the emotional and mental care of all of you on the front lines as you provide care to others. So in this moment, I join you in spirit. I join you always in support of the work that you do. And we will talk again soon. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Councilmember Padilla, for sharing your story. So much of how we reclaim the power over our experiences, connect with each other, and figure out how we are going to move forward in unity is through sharing our stories. I am blessed to introduce a conversation with a personal mentor, world-renowned activist, organizer, and inspirer, Marshall Ganz. Marshall worked in the civil rights movement and then with United Farm Workers for 16 years before finishing his education at Harvard University, where he earned his PhD. He is credited with devising successful grassroots campaigns, including propelling President Obama to victory in 2008. Marshall has also taught thousands of human beings all over the world how to harness grief and transform our stories into power, something we need now more than ever. You can see our full conversation on the UNAC UHCP website, but Marshall is a warm and kind human being, and his voice is a healing one. Enjoy. Healthcare workers who have been giving so much of themselves on the front lines of this pandemic right now are feeling isolated and traumatized. What is one way that they can reclaim their power over these experiences?
Probably one of the oldest challenges that we faced as a species is how to deal with loss, how to deal with change, how to deal with these challenges that we weren't prepared for, that we didn't expect. But nevertheless, here they come, and we have to find a way to deal with them. One of the ancient way that we learned to do that was through telling stories, because stories are about that. They're about people who are trying to accomplish something. Something gets in the way, and it may be a threatening thing gets in the way. And then the question is, how can we find the courage to turn that threat into a challenge, because threats we want to run away from, challenges we embrace. And I think the moral energy in your calling, in the calling of giving life, that's a pretty deep and powerful blessing and gift. And I suspect that's where a lot of people have been going. You know, whether it's in the form of your own life experience, your experience as a caregiver, as a life giver. I think what's so important is that you share that, because it needs to be a chorus, not a solo performance, because the solos don't make the music that is so important to make. It's allowing our hearts to speak through the words. It's not just the words; it's what we're communicating. And I have to think that that you've already demonstrated the extraordinary resources you have for this. So telling a story, telling stories of it, is a way to lift that up. It's a way to hear one another, to share with one another, and to sort of celebrate those sources of hope, the sources of courage, the sources of resilience, because those are the stories that matter. You know, and it's sort of like, yes, we want to share with others our wounds. Sometimes it could be very hard to share our wounds. But we wouldn't be here talking about it unless we'd figured out how to turn those wounds into scars. Mm. And sharing scars is how we show one another our strength, and it gives us the ground on which to build going forward, with solidarity, with hope, a sense of the incredible value that each of us creates in the world in what we do. And that's where that's the beginning of the power that we need to create the kind of change that we want and deserve. But it's a fight, and it sure doesn't begin and end with the story.
And so now my question for you is, in this historic moment, when the power of their life-saving labor has never been more deeply felt by so many, how do we tell our story of now?
Well, I think it's starting with telling your stories of self. It starts with introducing yourself about why you care. Who are you? Why do you care? Why have you chosen this calling? What has made healing such a powerful calling? What has made caring for others such a powerful calling? I mean, sometimes we may not express that, but surely that's at the heart of choosing this kind of a mission that you've chosen. People need to hear that, understand that it's not just like a healthcare machine or something. It's human being who, and as such, we have the gift of being able to express love in many different ways, and caring for others is one of the most important ways. So who are you? Why are you doing that? You know, somebody do that for you? That's a story of self. Well, then it's by sharing, what is it that we all share here? We share these values, these commitments. We share the challenges we've faced. There's a lot that you share. That's a story of us, is about who we are. Then you get to the story of now, which is okay. Based on that, you know, we're confronting some urgent problems right now. They were, as you said, unmasked by the pandemic. So, you know, this is a time to, can I say, confront people with the moral urgency of this. You know, are we dollar signs, or are we human beings? You know, I mean, okay, how many people, when they're in stress from COVID, that the answer was like, oh, here, let me give you a $5 bill, that'll take care of you. It's not how it works. No, it's a human being capable of caring. Well, that carries a price tag. In other words, the price tag is this country needs to support that. And so it's sort of asserting your own humanity, your own value, your own gifts that you give every day to this country and the people in it. Well, you got some rights then to demand that this system, which is so problematic, you know far better than I how problematic. Higher cost, more limited resources for actual care. It's time to confront that reality. I can't imagine a better time than now.
I really appreciate that, Marshall. On behalf of our 34,000 members, registered nurses, and healthcare professionals of UNAC UHCP, and the 21 unions of the Alliance of Healthcare Unions, we could not be more grateful for you to share this time and your wisdom with us. You're a blessing. Thank you.
As healthcare professionals, we do whatever it takes for our patients. Our moral commitment to our communities has always and will always carry us forward together. If you're in a space where you're able to, please lift your voice with us now as we recite our pledge as caregivers to one another.
We join today to recognize the deep and long-lasting impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on healthcare workers. Today, we light our candles to memorialize the caregivers who died in service to others and to the millions of COVID-19 victims who lost their lives. We hold all of those lost in our hearts and stand in unity with all of those grieving. Together, we have overcome challenges, inspired hope, and saved countless lives in our service to our communities. We will continue to do so long after this moment in history has passed. Today we commit to ourselves and to one another that we stand united to heal.
Join me in welcoming healthcare professionals who are here to share their stories of strength, resilience, kindness, and humanity.
We're letting the patients know their disease and what is going on, and we're also trying to understand what is happening and how can this affect us and affect their family. At the same time, I'm trying so hard to take care of my patient and protect myself, and then by the time I get home, I have to make a check how safe I am now for my family, how safe I am when I leave my house to be with my patients in the hospital, which are part of this community and they need us.
We're exhausted. We're just exhausted. It's been going on for 4.5 months now. Almost every single shift you work, you're running around like crazy, trying to take care of your patient, trying to keep your patient alive, trying to keep them stable. For the last 4.5 months, you have your fitted N95 on, you have your PPEs on, you sweat on it, but you have to run around, you have to do things. We get short of breath on the fitted N95, but we have to get through it. It's been very exhausting. Sometimes we forget that we're humans too. Our body needs the rest. Our brain needs the rest to function properly. Our body needs the rest. We're physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically exhausted. We're humans too.
Day after day during this pandemic, we work alongside each other, and we see what's going on, and it affects us our mental health. So this is a way for us to do some self-care and support each other. Yesterday, I spoke to one of my coworkers, and she explained how not only does she have things going on at home, but being on the front line has taken a toll on her. So she wants to receive mental health care to help her juggle all the emotions that she has bottled up from home, from work, and just being a nurse in general, and having feelings, human feelings like everyone else. Our own frontline healthcare workers experience unprecedented levels of burnout during the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to address the devastating toll on our colleagues who are experiencing mental breakdowns, broken relationships, alcohol and substance abuse, and even committing suicide. An attempt to alleviate the burden so many frontline workers are facing and will likely carry for months and years after the pandemic. Assembly member Evan Lowe has introduced legislation AB 562, will provide additional service to the frontline COVID-19 providers. We urge our California community to support this effort.
I hope each of you, through hearing the stories bravely shared here today, feel more connected to each other and are inspired to share some of your own scars, your sources of strength and resilience. Since we're virtual, we'll use technology today to join our voices on any device you have nearby, cell phone, iPad. Please go to www.menti.com and enter 1161-1343. And while we're getting set up, I just want to share that sometimes when we are giving so much of ourselves or we are experiencing trauma, we feel alone. I know in the darkest days of my own grief, I felt terribly isolated. And it was through the unconditional love of others and connection to the beautiful human beings around me that I found hope in the promise for a brighter tomorrow. I wish that same hope for you. So now, if you've pulled up Menti, our first question is a simple one. In one word, describe the last 14 months. Challenging, exhausting, hopeful, crazy, scary, emotional. We also felt pride. We were challenged and stressed, overwhelmed, and we persevered with each other. It gave us perspective about the world and where we fit in it. Lonely, anxious, unified with each other. It has been painful. In many ways, unbelievable and scary. Our next question, we want to dig a little deeper into that fear. What were you most afraid of? The illness itself, the unknown. There was so much that we didn't know, and the information we did have seemed to change every day. We were afraid of dying, of not being enough, of losing faith, getting sick ourselves, taking that sickness home, losing loved ones, isolation, losing family and friends. Our sense of security was gone. From day to day, we didn't know what we were walking into. We were afraid for ourselves and our family members. But we kept going. As Denise said, we stayed at the bedside and did whatever was needed in order to care for our patients. So our next question is, how did you keep going? Some of us went on autopilot. Some of us dug deep with daily affirmations to find hope for a better day, our faith in God, family, and prayer kept us going. Our sense of belonging to others and to being connected virtually when we couldn't see each other in person. We kept putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, with our own resilience and the support we found in our coworkers and loved ones around us. For 14 months, we have kept going. And here we are today, looking backward, reflecting on our experiences, sharing our sacrifices from a place of power, because we understand the value of our commitment to each other and to our patients. So today, as we think about the road ahead, how far we have traveled together and how far we still have to go, what is one thing that community members and caregivers alike can do to show that we are united to heal? Yes, we can continue wearing our masks, taking precautions until we are 200% in the clear. We are not there yet. We can trust our colleagues. We can be kind always to one another. We can advocate for each other as caregivers and as patients. We can materially support those who have healed us, our healthcare workers, value their labor and their service. We can stand in solidarity with each other today, tomorrow, and all of the days ahead. Thank you all so much for bringing your experiences and your voices into this virtual space. We have much more in common with each other than we see day to day. It's always been the case, and it will always be the case, that our common moral values will bring us together and carry us into a better tomorrow. Thank you for embracing these creative ways to express yourself and connect with us today. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending Being Essential, a poetry contest award showcase where poets shared their original works of poetry in gratitude for healthcare workers today. I welcome now Benin Lemos, a Los Angeles-based poet, teacher, librarian, and social justice advocate. She is widely published in literary journals, and her work most recently appears in the Writers' Workshop Anthology, 2020, the Year That Changed America. Welcome, Benin, as she graces us with her poem, On the Shores of Hope.
On the shores of hope. It would not be enough to take the ocean's waters and wash your feet, your hair, your hands. If we could make pillows from clouds to comfort your aching head, exhausted body, swollen feet, and sore limbs, it would be insufficient. Perhaps if we gathered all the flowers known and unknown, laid them at your feet, garlands to festoon and fragrance you with, we would do just that. The idea struck us to print money, gather shells, spices, cowries to repay for all the hours of no pay, underpay, starting pay, hazard pay, to overflow your coffers so you could dance all night in delight. Health has no boundaries. Your care, your work, all love labored under your heart. You bring us into the world, tend to our wounds, comfort as you cure, give safe passage when we despair. You touch organs, blood, tears, hands, heads, hearts, us, all parts, naked and afraid, to a safer, healed place. As you usher life in and out, as the earth does with its shore, wave after wave, always coming back after it has left, as you do what you have always done, before the sun sets, before it rises again, before you leave for the 12-hour, 8-hour, round the clock. We watch your effortless effort. We marvel. And we bow. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Benin. We needed this. We are thankful and appreciative to share the same space during these tough times. Let's continue lifting our voices together. As our program comes to an end, we want to remind everyone that it's important that we come together in these safe spaces in order to begin the process to heal. We honor all of those who have passed. We honor our personal and collective sacrifices in order to protect one another. And although we have struggled to thrive, please know that your sacrifices matter. Thank you for attending United to Heal.
We are blessed to have you with us today in love, in light, in solidarity. Till we meet again.